we are a different kind of law firm at Keystone Law. Has anybody heard of Keystone? Oh, good, excellent, some, fine. So we set up 15 years ago, and we had a desire to treat lawyers differently, and through treating lawyers differently, to solve business challenges differently and look after clients in a slightly better way. And it's been a hugely interesting journey from our first couple of lawyers through to 200 lawyers at the moment, and plans to grow 200, 300, 400, 500,000 in due course. And we've separated out lawyers and back office, and we very much have our back office looking after our lawyers, treating them as the clients and he who must or she who must be obeyed. But we've learnt an awful lot on that journey. And we've learnt a lot about the ways of structuring a law firm and how if you structure it right, you can render obsolete quite a lot of questions that may perplex you on a day-to-day basis. So, for example, Richard gave a brilliant presentation shortly before lunch about how you deal with recovery and how you monitor utilization and how you maximize efficiency and profit. But actually, you could structure your business so you don't care about any of that, because it takes care of itself. And there are good things and bad things about that, but the point is, you could do that. And there are a number of other things that I'm going to talk to you today where you could look at structuring your business differently, potentially, and that would potentially give you fantastic advantages in other areas. So I don't just want to talk to the room, I want to talk to you individually, and I do definitely want to get some interactive feedback. And we've already got some of your feedback, and I wanted to have a look at that. So where are we at? So Rupert, can we have a look at the answers that we had this morning?
So this is the first question.
This is the first question, okay. Yeah, so we asked you, which factor is going to have the biggest impact on the legal market? And you said client pressures, okay? Well, I got a bit upset there because I think you're wrong. I think the answer is technology, so my heart sank slightly. We then asked you, what are the greatest hurdles, greatest challenges you're facing? And you said, trying to attract high-quality staff. And again, I think you're wrong because I think it's all about technology, which only made it third there, but often one can lead into the other. So I was quite disappointed and upset at this point. And then I was really upset because you'd got all the answers wrong, but you were still cautiously optimistic that you were always going to be fine. So, you've got your foot down and you're heading towards the horizon, but in completely the wrong direction. So, but I thought I could change all of that in 45 minutes this afternoon. But then I realized that you were actually right. And I was wrong for even doubting you. Because what you've realized is you don't know everything. And in the next 2 years, there are all kinds of crazy stuff that is going to blindside you. And your business is going to be, if you are going to be cautiously optimistic and grow, is going to be significantly different in 2 years than it is now. But the question is, what's coming down the track? How can we deal with that? So I've had to introduce myself to try and tie everything back into what we've been talking about. So I've now got a slide deck which, fortuitously, I prepared a couple of weeks previously, but answers these kinds of questions about what sorts of things awaits you out there, well done, in the next 2 years, and what can we do about it? Now, I did say that if you want to stop and interrupt me, I want you to. And if we go off on a sidetrack, we'll go off on a sidetrack. I've got 30 minutes now, so I've already used up 15 of my precious minutes. A third of the budget gone on client acquisition. But we'll try and look at some of the things that might worry you. So there we are. That was the title I gave it. And it obviously worked because some of you came to this. So how are we doing? I would say pretty good. The sun is shining outside, or it was when we came in. We decided we're all cautiously optimistic, so that's good. Yay, well done us. Change is coming. And the good news is that you're not like this guy here. You've looked round and thought, oh shit. Change is coming. And you'll be getting out of Dodge City significantly before that man. So what are the problems that are going to come and get you guys? And this ties back to your concern about getting the right kind of talent, but your business model and the way that you work helps you attract talent. In fact, it probably defines the sort of talent that you can attract. So you've got a problem attracting talent. You need to know what your talent is. You need to understand the millennials. I'm going to come on, all of these things I'm going to come on to in more detail later. You've got a problem with client expectations. So this morning we were talking about fixed costs. I'm going to give you some examples of what some nasty clients did to me when I do occasionally do a bit of fee earning. To put that in perspective, it'll be day-to-day kind of stuff for you. And then there's the problem of being torn between increasing costs and falling revenues. And my favourite technology. Now, I should at this point make a confession. I have bought and read all 4 books that Richard Siskin has written. I was hoping for slightly more sympathy there, but fair enough. And I do agree with some of the things he said. Unfortunately, he tends to say them about 1,000 times in every chapter, but everybody buys them, including me, so I suppose who's the fool on that one? So I said I'd come back to the rise of millennials. So everybody's heard of the concept, the social concept of the millennial, presumably, yes. Anybody doesn't know? Right, marvellous, you all know. So you know what the problem is. The problem is we still think that, and they kind of think this. There is something fundamentally different about the workplace that we expect them to work in from the way that they expect to work. And they go through life and school and university, and they work how they do on this side of the screen. And then on the other side, that's what we then expect them to do in the workplace. So this is a problem with your business model and attracting staff. Then you've got a problem with client expectations. This is a little picture of a production line, because this is to get over the fact that our clients have pulled apart how they do things, and they do things at the least cost, just-in-time technology. They are very particular about where and how they do it and the costs and so on. We haven't necessarily done that yet, so that's our client expectation. They are all over the world, they're 24/7, and they're all working remotely. So they expect that. They want a law firm that looks like them. We don't look like that. So that's another challenge that we've got. We're being torn between costs going up and revenues coming down. You don't need me to tell you much about that. But you perhaps do need me to say that there are some significant problems insofar as the accountants are coming. They've got very deep pockets. They do things very well that we also do very well. That is not an even fight. We've got particular issues about being able to have great transparency on pricing. So we are going to be compared against our competitors more keenly each and every day than we've ever been done before. So this is simply going to exacerbate the problem we've got between increasing costs and falling revenues. So these are some other issues that come with the problem of technology. This is a picture of an app. This is Siri, in fact, because Siri is all about disintermediation. You can talk directly to your telephone, which can connect you directly with a way of solving the problem, whereas previously you went through a service provider to get to that solution. And in some cases, that service provider is us, and maybe in the future Siri will come up the value chain and start replacing a lot of legal tasks there. So that's another significant thing on the horizon that we need to worry about. And then the final of my 3 kind of technology woes is that there are apps out there which are being designed, purpose-built, to deal with legal services. So at the moment they deal with PI, being in a road traffic accident, speeding fines. And the app takes you from start to finish. And it's about £3.99. And it's direct marketing. It's a significantly different way of doing legal services, which we currently provide to our clients. Admittedly, what we offer is much better, but there is no comparison in the client's mind between what we offer and what they offer, and that's going to breed problems for us. So is all this technology good news or bad? Well, it depends how you look at it. There is an argument which says that, oh, well, it can help us be more efficient. It will allow us to sell our services more cheaply, so we'll expand the addressable market, and we can reduce our costs and increase our margins. So technology is good, it's our friend, and we should be using it, and we shouldn't be fearful of it. And I agree with all of that. That is absolutely true, and we should be doing all of those things, and I'm going to come on to how we can do some more of those things a little bit later. But of course, there's some bad news. And the bad news is technology can potentially erode our own market. So what is our market? What are legal services? Legal services, we know the law, we understand the law, we're using our advice to solve clients' problems and to deliver them a service. And computers can't do that, thankfully, so we're going to be fine and the tide won't come in. So what we actually need to do, given the lack of change in legal, is look outside legal for pointers as to where change is going to take us. And so, for example, we live in a world, we've all, of course, used the internet, but the ability to get access to the knowledge that we want is so much easier than it's ever been before. And the business model of solicitors being the guardians of law and the knowledge is completely broken, and that's absolutely disintermediated. Add on to that the ability of search, so you can get to the information you want to get to much more quickly. And add on to that there's the sort of big data. So it's the Amazon concept of customers who bought X might be interested in Y. Amazon doesn't know that. It's looking at buying histories and it's using cognitive computing, artificial intelligence, fairly basic. But it is changing other worlds other than law. Robots, of course, are replacing human labour, and every time we go to the checkout, we have to put our overalls on and join a union. So the world is changing outside law. Now, it's having significant consequences outside law. So McKinsey, who know a thing or two about these sorts of things, so at the moment we've got 2 million industrial robots out there. And they then gave a prediction as to how many industrial robots there are going to be in about 20 years, 75 million. So we're looking at putting 77 million people out of jobs because robots can do it more efficiently, 24/7, perfect continuity and quality control, and more cheaply than humans. But that's out there in industry. We need then to look at professional services. I'm still not coming on to law. That was my favourite effect, by the way. Do you want that one again? There we are. Thank you. Who knows what this is? Excellent. Somebody said Watson. Sir, you are entirely correct. In 2011, Watson, which is a program developed by IBM, won Jeopardy. Jeopardy, in case you haven't come across it, is a game show where you're given an answer and you have to work out what the question is. It is therefore incredibly hard for computers to do that kind of thing. They need to understand what they're being asked. They need to then read a body of knowledge very, very quickly and then work backwards from what it is they've learnt to try and find the question. Often a lot of it involves humour and kind of lateral thinking, which again is what humans do quite well and machines don't do very well. And then they've got to, in this particular example, use a mechanical arm to press a buzzer to answer the question more quickly than a human. Now, Watson in 2011, the computer, beat the two top all-time players of this game by a margin of about 20-1 combined, so 40-1 to each of them. It absolutely thrashed them. And that is a problem. That's something that really should be keeping you awake at night. Now, currently, and it's apt that we're in the Royal College of Surgeons, Watson is making a huge impact in America because there are large government contracts between, well, probably slightly less government and more insurance company, but it's America, but large contracts between providers of technology and medical of tools and facilities and the hospitals and the care providers. And because those contracts are so large, it's an easy market for something like IBM to go after. They can sell it for billions to a single person. So they're doing so. And what they've produced over in America is a diagnostic assistant, a doctor's assistant, that can look at all of the data, can look at all the research papers that have ever been put together, including one that might have been published 5 minutes ago, look at the patient's data, and then predict an outcome, can make a diagnosis. And not only is it much faster than any doctor, it's much more up-to-date, it's much more accurate, it outperformed even the very best doctors. So if you look at oncology, it was still 15% more accurate and several 100% faster than the very best oncologist doctor in the world. And so there are direct correlations between what artificial intelligence is and can do in medicine compared to what it is and can do in law. So we know that change is certain. So we need to be able to deal with change. We know that game-changing technology is around the corner and that its effects will be widespread. And a slightly worrying statistic there from Oxford University is, admittedly this is in 20-odd years' time, but they're talking about 47% in the UK of all jobs disappearing and being replaced by artificial intelligence. So this is very significant change that is on the horizon. And we've got to beware of being the boiled frog, where artificial intelligence and technology is slowly out there and it gets better and better and better and better, and then it's like the frog in the hot water. It doesn't jump out. At some point, we need to be addressing this issue and not necessarily jumping out, maybe that we get into a different pot or wherever the analogy would take you, but dealing with this problem because it's not going away. And this is a good graphic of what we think artificial intelligence looks like. Now I'm going to try the slide. There we are. Fine. Excellent. So we all think that Einstein, the most intelligent man that ever lived, is vastly more intelligent than a nice dumb human village idiot there. There's a significant gap. And then way down here, you've got a chimp, bird, ant, etc. And on here you've got time. And this is the beginning of artificial intelligence. And this is a period of about 15, 20, maybe 30 years, depending upon when you believe artificial intelligence actually took place. If you ask people what they think, that's generally what they think here. And so this chap there is poking fun at artificial intelligence, thinking it's so far beneath him, it's contemptible. This is the reality, starkly different. There is very little difference between Einstein and a dumb human on the intelligence scale. And it's true that we're just here on artificial intelligence. But this timeline here is something in the region of 10 to 20 years. If anybody has come across a guy called Ray Kurzweil, or if not, I would recommend you sort of look on TED or on YouTube to find out what Kurzweil has to say. Some statistics looking at Moore's law, which is pretty much throughout history turned out to be true, and that's the law that says that computing power doubles every 18 months and halves in price. If you look at that at the moment, artificial intelligence is about half as good as a human brain. In about a year, it'll be about as good. In about a couple of years, it'll be as good as the computing power, brain power of most firms. But in about 20 years, it'll be as good as the combined brain power of all of humanity. Slightly scary subject, but we're going to have to deal with that in our professional working lives. And we need to be thinking about that. Sure, that's a long way down the road, but it's a long road and we need to be treading that and thinking about that. This is not something that is going away. So how are businesses out there dealing with this issue? Riverview has put together what it calls a digital legal assistant. This is a Siri-type app. Again, they've gone for a nice, large, addressable market so they can sell it and make a profit. It's designed for GCs. And it allows a GC, basically, to ask this digital assistant how all of its cases are going. What is it going to win? What is it going to lose? Where are you overspending, underspending? What are the issues? Where are the problems in the production line? All of those kinds of things. It's crunching big data. It's got some fairly basic artificial intelligence, but fairly basic is where we're at the moment. But it's there, and it's going to go and get better. And at the moment, that market is GCs are the only ones who can afford it. But you project that forward, that market is going to be your client, the man in the street, that is going to be able to ask a Siri-like app. I'm buying my house, can you help me? I'm signing an NDA, what should I sign? Is this term acceptable or not? That's in the future. So this is what they say about it. The advisory and smart assistants we launched later this year, that's this year 2016, will do lower level legal work and provide suggestions for what advice should be given. That's Carl Chapman, the Chief Technical Officer. Epoch, you've probably come across what Epoch is doing. Indeed, some of you may have got the Epoch offering and be reselling it onto your clients. Epoch is a document automation system which you can put on your website, and clients can come along and say, I want to do a simple legal task, I would like to use your brand of law firm to do this task, but in the back end, it's powered by Epoch, and they take themselves through some Q&A, and they end up with a document at the end of it. They don't really use you at all, they just use your brand, and at the end of which, they pay you a fee, and you pay a fee off to Epoch, and you keep the difference, and essentially you are the intermediator between Epoch and your client. But that's out there at the moment. That's pretty good for as far as it goes. Rocket Lawyer and LegalZoom. This is a mixture, a sort of hybrid of what Epoch is offering, but it's offering it directly to consumers. And they're saying on the one hand, yes, you can go through contract review, and document automation, but also you can speak to one of our Rocket Lawyers, and they're all very cheap, and they're all based in far-flung places of the world, but essentially they're quite happy to work out 50, 60 pounds an hour and polish a document automated product with a little bit of legal knowledge to get it slightly better. It's still not the kind of product that you offer, but it's quite good, and it's coming, and their addressable markets are huge, and they've been invested in by Google, and they've got billions of dollars behind them, and they're going to be probably some of the biggest law firms there ever will be firms like that. And they're coming to eat our lunch as well. Irwin Mitchell, there's been quite a lot of chat about them. They're doing lots of clever things. Being as there are people here, ex-Irwin Mitchell, I'll probably not try and summarise them. Squire Patton Boggs, I met up with the CEO of SPB recently, and he told me about an employment product that has systemised and codified all employment law in 55 different jurisdictions and produced it down to a database which GCs can directly interrogate, and they pay a licence fee per month to have access to that, for example. So that's not so much artificial intelligence, it's much more about brute force computing. It took them 2 years to make that product, but they now sell that per month to all their different clients, and it gives, in fact, they call it edge. It gives them an edge with their clients. It helps them get their employment lawyers in for the stuff that it doesn't do. And then there's us, quite frankly, and we are, again, offering a very different kind of service to our clients, where they deliberately actually want some of the country's top experts, but at a rate they can afford. So that's our offering. I put this slide in this morning. This was in an article that came out a couple of days ago. And I really wished that this had come out a little bit earlier and I could have given you more response, but this is exactly what I'm talking about. So this was an article in America where a large US law firm has contracted with IBM. It's the first of its kind. It's contracted with IBM, and IBM have a product called AI Ross. It's an artificial intelligence product. And what it does, and what this law firm has bought it for, is you ask your questions in plain English, you as the attorney, just as you would a colleague, and then Ross reads through the entire body of law, returns a cited answer, and topical readings from legislation, case law, secondary resources to get you up to speed early. In addition, Ross monitors the law around the clock to notify you of new court decisions affecting your case. So this is something that will probably replace all paralegals and all juniors in the next 5 to 10 years. It'll be quite expensive, and you should probably be able to make a return on investment. I'm going to go and talk to these guys fairly soon, and I don't know what the pricing is going to be. But this is coming, and it will change your business model. And it's the change of the business model that I want to make you aware of, and want to get you to go back and think about how you can deal with that, and should you be dealing with that. So what's the connection? These are all companies that are using technology for commercial advantage, and you should be doing this. But how? Well, the road, it all starts with just the first couple of steps. So you need to plan which route you're going to go down. So yes, you could, and I appreciate my message is slightly biased and very much focused on things that will probably get you thinking, and slightly gloomy, therefore. It's actually not quite as bad as that, but it works quite well just in terms of getting you thinking. So there is a route where you could swallow the Suskind argument completely and think, well, it's all about this, we're all doomed. That is the only solution. We need to be looking at being a full AI model in the next 10, 20 years. And it's that kind of timescale. We could decide the legal world has worked perfectly well for the last 2,000 years. The business model is that of a craftsperson, an intelligent person that's able to look after clients, craft the law bespoke around a client, produce a very good product, and that's what our business model should look like. And there's nothing wrong with that, but admittedly the two AI and craftspeople model, they do compete, and therefore you need to point at different sectors of the market. And then there's what's called the paralegal model. Paralegal not as in junior kind of professionals, but actually it's that blending of technology and junior people, often not lawyers, and you'll all have them in your business, but using technology to give them a great deal more power. So for example, in the news today, there was a report about getting nurses to do more jobs that doctors are currently doing. So it's that kind of concept, getting much more junior lawyers, plus loads of technology and oversight and practice management systems that you will buy from third parties, but getting them to do the stuff that partners are currently doing elsewhere, for example. So that's a business model that your law firm might need over the next 10 years. And you'll be picking and choosing from all of this, and perhaps you're doing all of this anyway, but these are fundamentally different routes for you to take. And depending upon which route you go down, you end up looking like a different type of firm. So you need to know where to start. And you've got to start with where you are by looking at yourself. Or alternatively, getting somebody else to come in and look at you. And that could be money seriously well spent. Everybody thinks they know everything there is to know about their own businesses, but an outsider's view can be very insightful and incisive. And it's seriously well worth thinking about getting a £5,000–10,000 report prepared on yourself by a smart consultant. You can probably get it done more cheaply. There are business schools out there that are desperate to get their graduates out and in a project. Invite them in, get them to do something on your business. Have an outsider's view on what your business is and looks like and what your business model is optimized for. You need to understand what your market is. You need to understand who your clients are and what you offer your clients and why they come to you as opposed to going to somebody else. And you need to understand how you can address that market and what addressable market that is and what problems you've got. And so you then know where you're going, you know where you're starting as carefully as you can, and then it's time to start that journey. So part of starting that journey might actually be there's a bit of what you do that you don't want to do anymore. Part of that journey could be, well, you want to improve certain bits, or you might just decide actually you're fine as you are, and perhaps some of you are fine as you are. So if you're now going to act, and you're thinking about what you're going to do, and you've decided that you're going to cease some or part of your practice, I wouldn't worry about that. There's no shame in it. In fact, there might actually be a high watermark now for the value of those kinds of businesses. Now might be a good time to sell those kinds of businesses. And either you're taking the money out and trousering it as a partner and sharing it with the business or wherever the profits go, or you're reinvesting it in something that will get you a better return on those profits. And that's a business decision. And I wouldn't worry about it. I would actively look to try and take that. Because your market might have changed. Or your competition might have changed. And you just need to think that every now and again, that is an option that perhaps you should take. If you're looking at improving some or all of your practice, well, it's a gradual process, but you need to be agile. You know that change is coming. We've already established that. And the best way of being able to deal with change is when an opportunity comes up to be able to jump on it. And if you want to jump on it, you've got to be agile. And if you're going to be agile, well, I'll come on to looking at working models and practices and remote working, which can help you be more agile. You might want to increase efficiency. So this is about reducing your costs, processes that are end-to-end with no human touch, to drive your costs down, but speed up the way in which you do things. So automating client inception, for example. So it takes a minute or two. We've done it. It's entirely possible. Takes a bit of investment up front, but probably makes 2 or 3 people redundant or can be employed elsewhere in the business. You get payback in about a year. You can change remuneration models, and that's probably the thing that Keystone is best known for. Or you could change your focus. You could go after a different market. Most importantly, though, don't lose sight of the culture of your business. And this comes back to your desire to recruit all the right kind of people. And by and large, maybe once they've stopped looking at the salary, if they're that kind of way inclined, as I guess university graduates often are, because they've got debts to pay off, but people go for the culture. Certainly later in life, they go for the culture. So don't think that changing your business model means you don't need to change your culture. You do, but you need to know what culture you want to achieve. So agility is lack of fixed overheads. So lack of fixed rent, per head, per month, user licenses on the stuff that you buy. Salary, for example, is one of your biggest overheads. Could you get rid of that? Could you change the remuneration model so that your salaries are variable? We've done that. We pay all of our guys a cut of what they get, of what the client pays. So the client doesn't pay, they don't pay. So consequently, they're very good at cash collection. They're very good at budgeting. They're very good at cost estimates. They're very good at looking after their clients because we've aligned their interests. Still need to focus on culture. And you need to think about remote working. I know that 33% of us do it, 33% of us are thinking about doing it, but why isn't that kind of 90%? I mean, unless you run a sort of ideas type business where it's really good to bounce off each other, well, law isn't that, or unless you perhaps run a factory type business where you need to see lots of people working physically, otherwise you don't know they're doing what they're doing, what they're supposed to be doing, law is quite good for remote working. Finally, a couple of last words. So the first one on IT is you've got to get it right. It is a critical business decision for you guys. And in a challenging market, that's pretty hard. So get advice. You know, you literally could be one of the most important decisions you will make, what IT to go for. And the issue of getting it wrong, and could that leave you with legacy systems? So you need to be agile. You'd be thinking about the cloud. You'd be thinking about all sorts of things. But you would seriously benefit, in my view, from some advice, whether you've got an FD or whether you want a part-time consultant or so on. But certainly, you know, the senior partner, and I know there are some in this room, but certainly the senior partner is not up to date on the latest conventions in cloud computing. Get somebody who is. And then a last word on remote working, for which I've only left myself 1 minute. It's fantastic. It provides all of those benefits, particularly happier colleagues. And you will be amazed how much better your colleagues are when they're happy. It's quite uncanny. So how could you go about implementing remote working? You've definitely got to plan. And it isn't just about the IT. You can have fantastic IT and you can send everybody home and they've got the most brilliant way of working. It comes back to culture. If they don't feel part of the business because they're working at home, or they're not remunerated in the right way so that they're incentivized to work well under their own direction, then remote working isn't going to work well for you. So remote working isn't about talking to the IT director. It's a holistic decision for the whole board and all of the people in it. And quite frankly, that might mean that 25% of your workforce are the wrong workforce for you because they can't do that. So maybe you need to redeploy them or retrain them, or perhaps they don't work at home. But it's a significant decision. It's not a numbers decision. It's not a finance-based decision. It's not just a finance-based decision. And it's not just about the IT. Who does Keystone Law recruit? Who works well in our business model? From our point of view, they need to be self-starters. So they may have developed a client following, or they may be the sort of person that can develop a client following. And if they buy into us and we buy into them and they match our criteria on quality and where our brand sits in the market, then it doesn't matter whether they're in their probably early 30s is about as early as we'd go, or we've got some guys in their late 60s. Their outlook, their culture, their client following, their expertise matches what we're after, and therefore it's a great fit. And they say after a couple of months with us, their only regret is they didn't do it earlier. So it's a life-changing move, actually, that lawyers have when they come and join us. And you could take that out to your firms and replicate that.